Understand that back alley or coat hanger abortions rarely occurred in back alleys or with coat hangers. Dr. Mary S. Calderon, a former director of Planned Parenthood, wrote that 90% of illegal abortions were performed by physicians, only illegally. But remember, there is only one issue in this debate. Is that baby a real living human being or not? The Bible says that it is. Murder of innocent life is not justified, even in the name of safety. Another argument for legalized abortion is that women have the right to choose what they do with their own bodies. I've noticed that even this phraseology has been changing over time. I don't actually hear that statement much anymore, because it actually touches on the singular issue in this debate. Is that unborn baby a living human being or not? If it is, then the mother's choice is not about her body only, but also about the other body that is inside her. But now I hear this phrasing stated a little bit differently. And if you think back, you'll probably recall this as well. And normally what you'll hear from abortion activists is that women have a right to make their own decisions about their health care. That's how it's normally stated today. But the same problem applies. It's just that the terminology clouds the issue. It is now about health care, grouped in with getting a mammogram or a wellness checkup. But even if it is simply about health care choices, the overwhelming evidence is that abortion activists like NARAL and abortion providers like Planned Parenthood and counselors seem to be pushing just one choice, that is, to have the abortion. Look at Planned Parenthood's own statistics. How many abortions did they provide in 2010? As the largest provider of abortions in our country, they performed almost 330 abortions in 2010. How many referrals did they make for adoption? 841. That is less than 0.2%, or just over 0.2%. They also resist measures that would be reasonable for any other health care choice. For instance, parental notification. Governor Brian Schweitzer of Montana this month vetoed a bill requiring that doctors notify a parent or guardian at least 48 hours before performing abortions on girls younger than 16. This law suggested that a girl younger than 16 ought to let her parents know if she was having an abortion. Now girls can petition a youth court for a waiver if they don't want to tell the parent. Jeff Lesloffy of the Montana Family Foundation says, this is a case where the government has placed itself squarely between parents and children and prevented parents from protecting their children. He adds, teenage girls need their parents' permission to get their ears pierced or take an aspirin at school, but they can get abortion without even telling them. But Sally Burgess, director of an abortion clinic, wrote for the Huffington Post about parental notification. The health and well-being of these young women depends on putting an end to these dangerous laws. Dangerous laws is how she describes parental notification. And then there's informed consent. That many states have laws that require abortion clinics to inform patients about risks. Some require women to view an ultrasound of the baby or to listen to the heartbeat. These measures help the women make an informed decision and to humanize the issue. Now, I remember sitting in the delivery room with Kalani when she was about to give birth to Elijah, when the anesthesiologist came in to give her an epidural. Before he did anything, he sat right in front of her, looked her in the eye, and he asked her why she wanted an epidural. And he asked her if she knew the risks. And among other things, he told her that she could die. The risks were minimal, but he was required by law to get her informed consent, to make sure that she knew the risks before she decided to go ahead and have that procedure. For some reason, abortion activists don't believe this is necessary when it comes to abortions. Jessica Pieklo of the Reproductive and Sexual Health Justice Organization says that informed consent consigns women to second-place citizens under the law. Now, when that doctor required my wife's informed consent to perform an epidural, I don't think she felt like a second-class citizen. I think she felt empowered by being given all the information that she needed to make that decision. Abortion activists suggest that a woman who wants an abortion should never be subjected to the images or information that might lead her to a decision to protect the human life within her, or to protect her own self from the mental and physical side effects of abortion. Any argument that says that you are better off with less information or less understanding is untenable. If it were not so horrifying, it would be amusing to hear how they argue this point. For instance, Pico says, this leaves women unable to rely on doctors and nurses, their advocates in the healthcare system, for objective and unbiased information. It means that women must second-guess every diagnosis and recommended course of treatment in states with these kinds of informed consent restrictions. That getting informed consent is called second-guessing. That it's called, that requiring it, that a doctor who's working at an abortion clinic is going to be able to give her unbiased information without having to give her the informed consent information that she needs. Interestingly, the same people who say that women have a right to make her own health care choices also support laws like Michael Bloomberg and his law that you cannot sell someone a soda pop in a cup greater than 16 ounces. Pro-life politicians are often accused of engaging in a war against women. Chris Murphy is running for Senate of Connecticut. He accuses his opponent of engaging in a war on women for these issues. Interesting, his opponent Linda McMahon is a woman. Linda McMahon is actually pro-choice, but she supports reasonable legislation concerning parental notification and informed consent. But she is the one waging war on women, not him. Now, there are several arguments for legalized abortion, but there are also excuses that many make for allowing abortion. For not standing up for the right of the life of unborn children. For instance, someone might say, I personally believe that life begins at conception. I personally disagree with abortion, but I don't want to impose my beliefs on other people. This is a tightrope response for people who care about politics more than human life. They want to say, on the one hand, I agree with pro-lifers that life begins at conception, but on the other hand, I want the votes of pro-choicers, so I don't want them to think that I'm going to take away their right to abortion. This is a position of weakness at best. I could almost have more respect for a full supporter of abortion. Someone who says, I don't believe life begins at conception, I don't believe the Bible, and women should have the right to abortion. But the person who says, I don't want to impose my beliefs on someone else, already agrees with the premise that the unborn child is a living human being, but out of good manners or for votes, will allow someone else to kill that child. Another excuse is that this should be an issue for the states to decide. But this is again simply a tactic to get the tough issue off their back and into someone else's court. Remember, there is only one issue. Is that unborn baby a living human being or not? If it is, then it is a dereliction of duty if a person who can do something about it at the federal level passes the buck to the states. In a moment, I'm going to share our candidates' positions. There are a host of other issues that I could talk about in this arena. I could talk at length about the slippery slope of legalized abortion, such as the gruesome procedure known as partial birth abortion. It is what it says it is. Killing a child who has already been mostly born, but part of the body has not passed completely through the birth canal. Gender selection by means of abortion, even proponents of after-birth abortion. This is real. But let me move on to the candidates' positions. First, we'll talk about Mitt Romney. And I'm just going to read the quote from his website. I did check this against his website as late as Friday, so this is current. Mitt Romney, it says, is pro-life. He believes it speaks well of the country that almost all Americans recognize that abortion is a problem. And in the quiet of conscience, people of both political parties know that more than 1 million abortions a year cannot be squared with the good heart of America. Mitt believes that life begins at conception and wishes that the laws of our nation reflected that view. But while the nation remains so divided, he believes that the right next step is for the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade, a case of blatant judicial activism that took a decision that should be left to the people and placed it in the hands of unelected judges. With Roe overturned, states will be empowered through the democratic process to determine their own abortion laws and not have them dictated by judicial mandate. Mitt supports the Hyde Agreement, which broadly bars the use of federal funds for abortion. As president, he will end federal funding for abortion advocates like Planned Parenthood. He will protect the right of healthcare workers to follow their conscience in their work, and he will nominate judges who know the difference between personal opinion and the law. Because of the good heart of America knows no boundaries, a commitment to protecting life should not stop at the water's edge. Taking innocent life is always wrong and always tragic, wherever it happens. The compassionate instincts of this country should not be silent in the face of injustices like China's one-child policy. No one will ever hear a President Romney or his vice president tell the Chinese government that, quote, I fully understand or won't, quote, second guess compulsory sterilization and forced abortion. Americans have a moral duty to uphold the sanctity of life and protect the weakest, most vulnerable, and most innocent among us. As President, Mitt will ensure that American laws reflect America's values of preserving life at home and abroad. That's all from the website. Republican Party platform on abortion states, the unborn child has a fundamental individual right to life which cannot be infringed. It opposes using public revenues to promote or perform abortion or to fund organizations that perform or advocate abortions. It says the party will not fund or subsidize health care that includes abortion coverage. Barack Obama. His website only has one line on abortion. It says that he's committed to protecting a woman's right to choose. Other statements that he has made in January of this year, he said, as we mark the 39th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, we must remember that this Supreme Court decision not only protects a woman's health and reproductive freedom, but also affirms a broader principle, that government should not intrude on private family matters. I remain committed to protecting a woman's right to choose and this fundamental constitutional right. In October of 2007, responding to a questionnaire from RH Reality Check, says, as a president, Obama believes that young women, if they become pregnant, should talk to their parents before considering an abortion. But he realizes not all girls can turn to their mother or father in times of trouble, and in those instances, we should want those girls to seek the advice of trusted adults. President Barack Obama signed an executive order forcing taxpayer funding of embryonic stem cell research. President Barack Obama struck down the Bush administration's ban on giving federal money to international groups that perform abortions or provide abortion information. President Obama announced $50 million for the UNFPA, the UN population agency that has been criticized for promoting abortion and working closely with Chinese population control officials who use forced abortions and involuntary sterilizations. President Obama called for an unlimited right to abortion at a United Nations meeting. The Democratic Party platform states, the Democratic Party strongly and unequivocally supports Roe v. Wade and a woman's right to make decisions regarding her pregnancy, including a safe and legal abortion, regardless of ability to pay. As I close, I recognize that this is an important topic, and I spent a lot of time in prayer, probably more than I have for just about any sermon, because I wanted to make sure that this isn't all about just weighing arguments, it's not about rhetoric or speaking skills, that at its heart, this is about a worldview, that it is about each one of us making a choice to seek holiness in all of our decisions and our actions. It is about living and voting in a way that brings glory to God. So I will leave you again with Psalm 139 and verse 13. For you created me in my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made.